So the night after Thanksgiving in 1992, an Atlanta homeowner would open his door to find two very young boys splattered with blood. One stated, "A bad man shot my mom." The homeowner asked him to repeat what he had just said because he had been hard to understand due to being terrified, and then he repeated, "A bad man shot my mom, a bad black man with a pirate gun." When this homeowner followed the boys to the crime scene, it was a car in the middle of a nearby field. They opened the driver's side door and the body of a woman fell out. That was the body of their mother. There was vomit inside from these two young boys who had witnessed this murder.
One thing I always remember was she had long hair and the blood would just run down and just the droplets would drop off.
Investigators found that prior to Sara's death, Fred had taken out 3 life insurance policies totaling $1.7 million in the event of her death. But unless his 6-year-old son Ricky could lie to police, then his father was not the one who murdered his wife that night. Because if you remember, Ricky said that this was a black man who had done this, and Fred was white. And so at this point, no one knew the truth on who was the actual killer, except for the 6-year-old boy who had witnessed his mother's murder. So Ricky was brought in and a lineup of men were presented with Eddie and Curtis. He was unable to choose, but one thing was known: Eddie Lawrence was not talking until he was promised a plea deal. Eddie began to explain that he owed Fred $70,000 at the time of the murder, which was of course a motive to why Eddie would go to these lengths to hire a hitman for a man wanting to kill his wife. It was to pay back his debt, or at least it could have been. It was also found that Fred had promised to give Eddie half of his wife's life insurance policy toward his businesses. So eventually, Eddie would confess that Fred had given him $25,000 up front for his wife's death. But Eddie said he decided that he didn't want to commit the murder himself and that he was going to get someone else to do it. He knew this guy, Curtis Rower, was a former inmate, a crack addict, and he agreed to kill Sara Tokars for $5,000.